Good morning. Welcome to Zen Live on the day after the great eclipse. Boy, I had fun yesterday. I don't know, the eclipse seems to generate writing energy for me because I was writing on it all day long and just extending the metaphors. It was like, well, the eclipse was very metaphorical to me. And it just generates, it's like generating poetry. But what's in the news? I feel like Seth Meyers. What's in the news? Yesterday news was the eclipse. So today's news was two things. First of all, it was the Trump's foreign policy report or decision on Afghanistan. So I thought we would take a look at that from a Zen perspective. And Zen is, in fact, the symbol for Zen is, done in calligraphy, is that, with a calligraphy brush. It's just a one movement like that. It's a spontaneous zero. And if you notice a lot of the art, like the gateless gate and the ponds and the gardens and the rocks, everything is zero. Everything seems to be in balance. Balance and zero. So let's look at Afghanistan from this point of view. Okay? So you look at what's zero? Well, a zero is an organism. A society is an organism, first of all. It's like an ant colony. Now, if you have an ant colony under a rock and you lift the rock up, that ant colony is going to go wow, 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 all over the place. But in a few minutes, amazingly, it's gone, and you'll find it somewhere else. It recreates itself. And another thing about ants, I know you can and they're really amazing creatures, but it's a great metaphor for an organism that is organized spatially. In other words, the ants communicate with each other no matter how far apart the ants are from each other. So one ant can find some sugar on the table, and the next thing you know, they've got an army column running all the way from outside the house, up the side of the house, in through the window, down the wall, up the leg of the table, and over to this sugar. And you can watch them. You got the army ants, you got the army, they come into it, they get the sugar, and they take it back. It's amazing. And so this ant colony does not communicate by telegraph, by Pony Express. The little ant doesn't go running back and tell the ant colony, whoa, whoa, there's sugar on Ed's kitchen table. No, they operate from an intelligence, an organism's intelligence that is trans-space and location, in the sense that they all just move in unison without communicating with each other. Like a basketball team in the zone. That's what basketball teams want to achieve. That ant colony intelligence where they're all moving as one, and you just throw the ball and you don't even have to look. You just go boom, and it hits, and the other teammate gets it, and they run it faster than thought. Faster than thought, you see. So they're not giving secret hand signals. Oh, I'm going to throw the ball to you next, you see. It's just a Nike commercial. They just do it. So the ants just do it. So look at Afghanistan like an ant colony. Every society is an ant colony. Every society is an organism that operates in unison, particularly when attacked. When a society is attacked, when an ant colony is attacked, all the ants rise up in unison, fiercely. You step in an ant colony, and you, particularly the fire ants or whatever, or hornets, any insect colony is a good metaphor for a social organism. So you got Afghanistan. Now, an ant colony in a social organism always achieves and works to restore balance. Balance. All the parts working together. Balance. That's why primitive societies will last forever unless there's some interference like an environmental change or an invader or the injection of some new idea. Now, this is always National Geographic is always great on that, because you take a primitive society and you inject some Western idea or object and they incorporate it into their own religion. They might even make a religion out of it. And the next time you go there, they left that pair of binoculars or something you left on the ground and they've turned it into a religion. They've incorporated it into they've maintained zero. They incorporate everything. Every new ingredient gets incorporated into the organism. So it doesn't destroy the organism. The organism just incorporates this new idea. And it's like a grain of sand in an oyster. The oyster doesn't, it just incorporates it and makes it and keeps smoothing it over. Makes a pearl. But the idea here is that the organism, like this field, energy field, just keeps changing and evolving to incorporate new invasions. So, okay, so I just put this up here. This is fun. So you got Afghanistan. Why did we invade that in the first place? Well, there was a grain of sand in Afghanistan called Bin Laden. Okay? A grain of sand. Now, he wasn't an Afghani. He was an Arab. He was up in the mountains there. And so he attacked us. So we go back to get rid of that attacker. Fine. But what happened? We didn't attack bin Laden, we attacked the Taliban, who are, and here's where Trump, I was listening to Trump last night, so he talked about the Taliban as being the terrorists. And it sounded a lot to me like Bush war on terror. So instead of going after a grain of sand, Bush went after terror. And so, which is an abstraction, by the way. It's like having a war on death, or a war on dandruff, or war on sunburn. So it's kind of like you can't. There's so anytime there's so it kind of like that creates an abstract ant colony called terrorism. And so if anybody kills anybody, oh, it's my God, it's part of that colony. And so that creates this fear, that the terrorists are, anyway, I digress. But let's get back to my fun formula. So we go in there. So if you've got zero, and I put this up here as a teeter-totter that's balanced, okay, the society is balanced. Even though you don't like it, it's balanced. The Taliban maintained balance by force, but that's their society. So you add 5 milligrams, so you got 5 pounds of force, and that tips the teeter-totter this way. Now, what does the organism do? Well, if you add 5 pounds of force, it's going to add 5 pounds of opposite force to restore balance. So now we're into a catch-22. So now, they're still there, so we got to add 10 pounds. So they add 10 pounds. No, we got to add 100,000 pounds. And they don't add 100,000 pounds, but they figure out a way to restore balance. You see, so it makes it's like squirrels. It's like squirrels and the bird feeder. The bird feeder, our attempts, it drove my father crazy when he retired. The squirrels defeated him. He never could keep the squirrels out of the bird feeder because the squirrels kept evolving their intelligence. You create a new bird feeder, they figure out a way to get in it. So when you create a catch-22 like this, you evolve the intelligence of your opponent. You add 10 pounds of force, they're going to come up with an evolve around to incorporate that grain of sand, like the oyster. You're going to figure out how to maintain your ant colony. So it's kind of like American force, we love wedges. So we drive into ant colony with our superior military force, sure, believing that it's going to solve the problem. That's called the hubris of military power. You drive it in there, and Afghanistan just incorporates it and changes. So Afghanistan doesn't, all we're doing basically is creating changes in the Taliban, which is apparently the ant colony mind of Afghanistan. The government installed there is a puppet government. I mean, the Russians did that. I mean, they installed a communist government, a communist-friendly thing, and the Taliban weren't the Taliban then, but the Mujahideen, or the Afghans, rose up against this clone, this imposture government, and we're doing the same thing. The government we install there is a grain of sand in the oyster of Afghanistan. It's an irritant. So they're going to, like an ant colony, they're going to keep evolving and changing in order to maintain their balance. In other words, a society according to their mythology, to their magnetic field, their unique culture and organism, you see. Our ideas of government and democracy are like grains of sand in the oyster of a tribal society, or any society that doesn't have the same foundations as American democracy, Western democracy. Look how long it took us to develop our democracy. Through England and the Charter and the Civil Wars of England and so forth, all the way up to America. It didn't happen overnight. It took 1,000 years to develop the conditions for a stable democracy. So it's kind of like we want to jumpstart 1,000 years when we go to these other cultures and put a wedge into it and lift up the rock. See, we lift up the rock, put something in there, and the ants just reorganize around it, and whatever we do, this is why the yin-yang is such a great symbol, because it is a display, you see. So whatever this size does, trying to get rid of this size does the opposite. So the teeter-totter always comes back to balance. But it becomes a catch-22 because you can't get out. It becomes a feedback loop of expanding energy. So this equation that Trump is playing with here, as we have seen in our history, can escalate very quickly. Well, we put in 5 now, okay, and so they add 5, a -5. All right, well, we're going to put in 6. And then they're going to put in 6. And then we're going to put in, well, it's not working. We're not winning. We're not winning. So we'll put in 10, and they put in 10. But they create the 10. You see, it's like we got the 10 from more soldiers, more tanks. They don't have more soldiers. Well, they have more soldiers. They don't have more tanks, so it's not going to be like two armies coming together with tanks. It's going to be one army coming together with tanks and another one coming together with guerrilla tactics and IUDs and guerrilla warfare, where there is no enemy. You just get lost in the quicksand, caught in a trap, the Khyber Pass, and wiped out. So Afghanistan is like the quicksand for empires. Alexander the Great lost there. The Persians lost there. The British lost several times there. Then the Russians got lost there. You'd think we'd learn about quicksand. I don't know what the answer is, but I can see quicksand. And the idea, what this requires, in this when you get caught in a catch-22, it's either going to go towards more violence until everybody just goes mad, and that's why nuclear bombs are so dangerous, is because when you're in a catch-22 and it keeps escalating like a mic against a microphone, wow, the danger of somebody throwing a nuclear bomb at it just to end the thing is very real. When it gets to the point where when you stick a microphone in an amplifier, it will get to the point where the amplifier is going to blow up if you don't turn that thing off. In other words, if you stick the mic in, so this American force is like putting a microphone into an amplifier. Wow. Vietnam, wow. Korea, wow. Korea was a civil war, wow. Vietnam, a civil war, wow. Afghanistan, a civil war, wow. You see? So it doesn't reach a point where you ever restore zero. It reaches a point where you just either just leave, and then everything returns back to the way it was. Restores zero. Vietnam, we left. It discovered its own. The ant colony reorganized. The ant colony came back to its own zero once the wedge was taken out, once the finger was taken out of it, you see. So once we take our wedge out of it, once we take the weight off the teeter-totter and stop adding to it, Afghanistan will return to ground zero. So, anyway, that's enough for today. That's what's in the news today. And thanks for dropping in, and I'll see you this evening for martini time.